So, Alex, welcome to Black Glory. I'm really excited to have you. We've been talking, so our conversations just really flow, and I have a lot of fun talking to you. And I just kind of want to flow back into what we were talking about, but I want to give you a chance to just say hello to the people, any sort of greeting that you want to give or intro that you might want to give.
Yes. Oh, no, thank you very much for that introduction. Definitely an honor to be on air with you, and I hope I can share some of the things I've learned over the years and also learn as well. So this is exciting.
Awesome. And you're joining us from San Francisco.
I am in the Bay Area in the middle of March 2020. If anyone is familiar with this date, they will know that the world is going through some interesting times in terms of.
We're going to talk about that. We can't not talk about it. Yes, this is March 11th. It's 2:30 p.m. British time. What time is it in San Fran? Alex got up really early for this episode.
Yeah, 7:30 a.m.
And you're in Oakland, right?
Exactly.
So we've talked a little bit about coronavirus, and because the date is on record, we want people to know, how it is. You said that people were buying up all the water like last week, but I'm curious, if things are calmer now.
Yeah, it's a pretty unprecedented time for most people alive today. I don't think we've seen anything like this in a long time. You have major companies shutting down their offices and asking their employees to work from home. Or just think of all the big tech companies. You have huge sporting events canceling their activities. I was very excited to watch Manchester City play Arsenal today, but that's just gotten postponed. And there's talks of the Olympics getting postponed, right? This never gets postponed except there's a world war. So that's just not comforting to hear. There was some panic a few weeks ago, and where at the Costco, people went in their hundreds and bought up all the water. And there was long lines of people just picking up everything and going to stash it at home. So it was crazy.
Wow. That's really apocalyptic to see in my head. But what do you think is the role of tech in shaping the way forward?
There are several pieces here, technology and being part of this outbreak. I don't want to call it pandemic yet, but I'll probably talk about just two: communication and cure. Right. In terms of communication, because of technology we have, we're able to quickly communicate from all different parts of the world. Once they've spotted the virus or the condition, they can communicate to the central bodies like the World Health Organization and try to, as best they can, to coordinate. So that's a great improvement to say this happened 100 years ago. The second piece there is in terms of trying to find a cure and vaccines, because that's what we absolutely need at this point.
Okay, so before we get too deep into everything else, I want to take a step back and just kind of, learn more about you and how you became, this Black genius. And so, your story started in Nigeria.
Yes.
Remind me what part of Nigeria you were born in.
So I was born in Benin City, the ancient city of Benin, we used to call it. And it was given that name because it was an ancient powerhouse. I think before the contact with the colonial masters or folks, before 1400s, it was a very thriving city. You can go read more about Benin City and see it was one of the first cities in the world to have street lights and straight roads and underground sewage and all of that. So very proud of it. And the ancient city of Benin. I grew up there. It's had 1.5 million people. So I had a decent bit of an urban type of life. To two parents who worked in the health industry. And I really enjoyed my childhood. I ended up leaving when I was 18 to head to New York for college.
To go to Columbia.
Yeah, I managed to get into Columbia from my tiny city of Benin. And it's funny, it's actually the very first time I'll get on a plane. Was getting on that plane to fly from Abuja to New York.
Amazing. So you leave Nigeria for the first time at the age of 18, come into New York City. What was that like?
It was exciting for me. I made friends with a lot of other people who were similar to me, who had just flown in from other countries, from Asia, from Latin America, from Europe, and we formed a pretty strong friendship that I think was built around our shared feeling of being, I guess, lost and away from home.
Mm. We talked a little bit about this, about how race became a thing that you now were aware of. And I'd love for you to talk about sort of your realization of your Blackness. Because in Nigeria, if you can maybe even touch on what you might have learned in Nigeria about race in America, or what your expectations were based on what you saw. Let's dig in there a little bit.
Yes, I think everyone might have different stories here, which is because we have different experiences. For me, I definitely watch a lot of TV, and it was there on television that there was a thing called racism. But I didn't feel it as on a day-to-day in Nigeria because everyone was mostly African, different shades. There's dark people and light people, but it was all fine. Until coming to America, I expected that, okay, there would probably be some Caucasians who tried to be racist to me, and I wouldn't care. It's completely fine. It's their loss. In fact, I looked at it as, all right, you can go ahead and underestimate me. That is to your own peril, because I'll go ahead and be the highest student in a calculus class because you don't think I can do that. But I mean, I don't even need to read to do calculus, so it's your problem. So I always felt that way. But then, where it was then, it's interesting to think about that. The piece that was then shocking was because I didn't expect it. It was from the African Americans who were here. I didn't expect to receive anything from that group. And my first year in school, I did. So that was the piece that was very difficult, was to see people who look like me make fun of me and try to make fun of my accent and make fun of my dressing and ask about, like, it was the African Americans who asked about the lions. I was like, really? I thought the white folks would do this, but now as the black folks, it's very interesting. And
so did the white folks do it as well, or was it mostly just from black folks?
Not that they were more subtle about it.
Okay.
Right, they were more subtle, and then it was then the black folks who were doing that, and so the first year was difficult in that sense. I just had no idea how to relate with that group.
Do you remember the first sort of negative interaction? Because I'm also curious if all of your, if there were positive interactions also with black folks from the States, but
the first year was mostly not great. It was just my best friend at the time, Yasser Diab from Sudan, who had grown up in Dallas, who wasn't that way. And so that was the first year. But by the second year, I started to, take a step back, try to understand what was going on. I'd taken a lot more history or core classes, as we call them at Columbia. So I had to kind of, become more aware, become more open, and learn where they're coming from. I knew where I was coming from, and I was looking for people who would be open to hear where I was coming from and figuring out what our shared experiences are, our shared values are, and then connect based on that. And so by the second and third year, it started to be less of me, because I'll tell you, first year I really did almost kind of hate folks from that part of the world. But started to be more open to understanding where people were coming from and why they were asking the questions they were asking, and learning that, okay, they actually truly were never exposed to anything about Africans, and the only little bit they were, formed the questions that they were asking me. So it wasn't like necessarily their fault, but it was what they've been put through. And from my side too, the biases I had were because of, the lack of knowledge and learning. And so I think being openness and learning are the way forward to connecting as a people.
So what biases did you have about African Americans?
Well, from television, it was that, okay, they didn't work hard and got involved in a lot of crime. So that's what there was on TV. And so, yeah, pretty much when I even got into college, my mom said, all right, congratulations for getting to college. Now let's see all the schools you have and, delete all the ones in New York.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, I think we're doing this at the wrong time because I actually only applied to schools in New York. So,
oh, snap. So why did she not want you to go to New York?
She thought it was too dangerous because there's all these people rapping and shooting and all of that.
Oh my God.
That was the movies.
What kind of stuff did you watch? Do you remember any of the shows or movies that you watched in Nigeria that gave you this impression?
That's interesting. None is coming to mind now.
If something comes to mind later, please.
I'll share later if something comes to mind. But it just speaks to the power of storytelling of movies, especially when you can travel to places yourself. You learn everything, from movies. And so that's why even for me going forward, I see movies as one of the greatest tools to changing conditions for anyone, most especially the African community.
Wow. Ooh, Lord. Okay, so there's two questions that I have. So I want to talk about, you said that you were not sort of as emotional about racism because you were going to show them, pepper in the classroom, right? Like it didn't bother you, right, as much. And so I'm curious where that pride came from. Where do you think you got that attitude? Because most people don't respond to racism that way. And then I'm curious about maybe when that perception of Black Americans started to shift for you. Was it through the history classes and all of that? So you can weave in whichever one you feel more,
Yes. Well, the first one, I asked myself as well. I don't know where it came from. Perhaps it was some exposures I had in Nigeria. And I guess somehow I just pay attention to facts. And the fact was, I could do my math, I could do my physics. So if someone told me I could not, I'm like, really? I mean, it's the same thing that happened with the getting into Colombia. They said I could not get in, and I was like, no, I think I know my subject. I just didn't know that was something to shoot for, and so I've mostly been that way. Then in terms of now, kind of switching my perception or understanding, the learning of the history was the start. But then when I decided that we were all in the same fight together, that happened after I graduated. I bought this nice Audi A4, enjoying the car. And I had a car in New York, can you imagine? We'll drive that around and it was having a great time. Until this fateful night, it was like 2 a.m. in Brooklyn. And I got stopped by a cop car, and they asked all these questions and were testing me and just trying to make sure I wasn't drunk driving, which I wasn't. But I just felt like it was a very long test, and I was very scared. That experience got me to start thinking that I'm a pretty I had to show my Colombia ID to get out of that thing. Like I had to show, like, look, see, I'm a smart guy. That's my ID. He shouldn't be. I don't know what you're looking for. And so I was working at Goldman Sachs at the time. I was making great money, and so I told myself, wow, it doesn't matter how wealthy you get as an individual. You're still Black in this America. You're still gonna get stopped by the cops and possibly get shot one day. Like, this is what happens here. No matter how wealthy you are, whether you're African, whether you're Black American, African American, we're all the same. And even if you get really wealthy, like maybe Obama, and popular, okay, maybe he's safe, but his kids may not be that safe, or his cousins are not. And so I decided, it was that day I kind of developed this, what I have now called a life's purpose, which is, I don't think we'll ever be respected as a people, or lose or shake this off until the continent where we're from starts to make some progress and shake off the poverty reputation.
Wow. Yes to that. I want to dig more into your purpose for sure, because that is an exciting conversation. But I want to go back a little bit more to that moment with the police and what, first of all, my first question is like, what was the race of the cops? I'm always curious to know that because it matters to me. And then how did you feel? Like, what was it like? What, you know, for me, every time I see lights behind my car, I'm just like, I'm already paralyzed, right? What was the
paralyzing feeling? Yes, there's a white guy, and when when there's a car behind you following you, it's so funny. You start to try to give them way. You move to the side, move to the corner, like, oh, you can pass. Why are you coming? Why you can go past, and then maybe they get frustrated too, and then they eventually do woo, like make the sound, and that's when you're like, oh shit, it's for me. Yeah, so you feel something in your stomach and it's paralyzing, and it's very scary. And then they show up, because you've seen this in the movies a couple of times where it's like, you make any swift move, you get shot, and it's like, really? But at the same time, you've seen many videos too of white folks coming out and even maybe slapping the policeman and not getting shot. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you can't even move your hand a second. They'd say, oh, it's dangerous movement. Really? And so, yeah, that was very scary.
Wow. So that awakened in you some clarity about your purpose. So tell us about your purpose and your calling.
My purpose and my calling is to contribute to, helping bring the Black voice back to the table. Right, bring the Black voice back to the table. Our voice is not the only important one. We're all part of humanity. All of humanity, from all different parts, I feel I've experienced Earth differently and have different strengths, different understanding of it. And I think it's only as we come together to put the whole puzzle together will we understand how to survive on this planet sustainably, right? I mean, it's never been more important given how fast we're trending towards negative climate change and all of that. So, well, the Black piece of that puzzle, the Black voice, has been shut down for the last 400 or 500 years. I think it's time to bring it back to the table if all of us in humanity want to keep moving forward.
Alex for president of Wakanda. Love it.
I think there are many of us who feel this way. So all of us can come and form this group.
Let's start. That's the community that we want to cultivate on this podcast. So let's find those people and bring them here.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about Alliance for AI and how Alliance for AI injects the Black voice or puts us back in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So it's Alliance for AI. We've described it as sort of the league of the sharpest African innovators tackling its most critical challenges. It really cares about, I think, maybe three things: solving big critical challenges. Secondly, creating a lot of jobs, as jobs are very important to give people options. And the third one is taking out bias that is currently being introduced by disruptive technology. Those are the three main things. And if I was to wondering what else to describe here. With it's an African focused organization. The Alliance for AI, AI part of it actually means Alliance for Africa's Intelligence. So what we're trying to, Yeah, what we're trying to show the world here is that African solutions are built they bring a peculiar thing to the table. They're built by people who are facing a lot of these challenges around healthcare, around trying to produce food, agriculture, right, in the African space. And they build it from a place where it becomes the solutions are more accessible and affordable and built with context. So they're more applicable to the people from those parts of the world, and then also exported to the rest of the world, as against you building something in San Francisco and taking it to Africa. It'd be extremely expensive. I mean, I can give some examples, but that's kind of the crux of it.
Wow, Alliance for Africa's Intelligence. I never knew that. That's big. Is that on your website?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that.
Africa's intelligence because, today AI, artificial intelligence, is the most important technology that we've created as human beings. But in 3-5 years' time, there might be something else. And so we want to be able to build engines or channels to reach all corners of the continent when there's a new type of technology that people should learn about. Right. Wow. So that's what we've tried to do. And just to paint a picture, let me give an example of what I described about these whole African solutions. As I was talking, I spoke with some exciting founders 2 weeks ago. They're founders of Tambua Health. It's a company out of Kenya and Tanzania. The CEO said that the MRI machines, right, these machines that are very important for taking scans of the insides of our bodies so you can detect cancer and other diseases, right, the MRI machines. He said to buy one MRI machine is the same cost as building 4 clinics in Kenya.
Wow.
And I was like, that's so funny. I'm so crazy. It's like just to buy one MRI machine. So that's how difficult things are. That's how expensive taking a solution from America to other parts of the world is. And so what he and his team have decided to do is build some artificial intelligence applications for basic mobile phones that you could now put on the back of a patient, and it will pick up sounds from their lungs, the movement of their lungs, and create an image from that.
Are you kidding me?
Which they curate and make it provide as much information as you would get from an ultrasound scan. I don't know if it gets to MRI level, but they keep working on it. It's not there yet, but this is the idea.
But this is an app. This is an app on a smartphone.
Yes, this is an app that.
So how exactly does it work? I mean, maybe we need to bring him on the podcast because I want to know how this works. Yeah.
So these are incredible solutions Africans are building because we understand our challenges. We know that we cannot spend money for 4 clinics or 1 MRI machine. So we're building other ways to do it. But then here you have a world that's not paying attention to founders like this guy from Tambua Health. They're not investing in them because they think that, the solutions only come from Stanford and from San Francisco. We're losing out as a planet, losing sustainable solutions if we continue in the path we're on.
Do you know more about how that works, or should I just reach out to this guy?
I don't know a ton more about the technology.
The technology. Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the things I wanted you to get into is how AI can be used, in healthcare, and that's a great example. I want you to give an example about agriculture as well. Let's do that first.
So yes, before I talk specifically about the use of AI in agri and healthcare, I would take a slight step back to say, when people hear about artificial intelligence, they really think about this message mostly from propaganda in the US and other developed nations, where they say AI is going to take away millions of jobs. Well, first of all, in developed markets, frontier markets, or rather developing markets, frontier markets, in Africa, there are not many jobs to take away. So what are we even scared of? Those jobs that are being taken away in America is like the factory jobs, where that are getting automated. So that's very different. But that's only one side of AI. The other side of it is market creation, the opportunity to create markets that completely didn't exist before, completely, markets that can employ millions of people. So millions of jobs can be created by this technology because of, the access it's providing to do things that we could never do before, like I described earlier on, detecting, diagnosing disease with your phone. Now, if you're able to do that, you start to make life easier for doctors. So doctors don't need to be in every village to diagnose disease. Now you can employ health workers and give them phones to then help people in villages. And those people in villages don't have to spend their entire life savings traveling 5 hours to go to the city to get diagnosed. They maybe only go there when they now know what they have, and they now go for treatment. So they've saved so much money. You've created many jobs and hopefully value for people and the economy.
Absolutely. There's certainly value that's being added. You're saving lives.
Yes. So that's in the healthcare space. In the agricultural space, it's really around helping farmers be more informed about their work, because today a lot of times they operate on prayers, and they're praying for the rain, they're praying for everything, they're praying for pricing to go the right way. They're not informed, they're just praying, and so they end up losing more than 50% of what they produce, or they don't even produce much because they don't know when the water is going to show up. So this is all crazy. And so if I also summarize AI's effect on agriculture, I think there's an opportunity to help subsistence farmers, small farmers, enjoy some benefits that large-scale farmers enjoy. Right? That's an opportunity. That's the opportunity that we have, whereby, with tools and sensors, IoT sensors, you can place at different points in the farm. You can then learn about, humidity, and be able to predict what can happen to the crops, or you can very quickly identify crops that are going bad or pests that are in the farm. These are things that can now happen much faster and much more accurately and help the farmer minimize loss.
Wow.
Right. So AI is not going to solve all our problems, but there are many problems it can solve.
You mentioned something earlier, your third pillar, about bias. Can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yes. Well, these new technologies, these new tools for solving problems, they are very data intensive. You pretty much get a lot of data, a lot of examples of how things have happened, and then you train a computer based on that data. After you train the computer, then it can then do stuff with that. Let me use an actual example. You have pictures of white cats, right? Or different colors of cats. You have 1 million of these pictures, and you show it to the computer. After showing it all of those pictures, it starts to know how to identify a cat. If it sees a cat amongst many animals, it can identify it. But if you didn't show that computer a black cat and it sees a black cat, it's not going to identify it. It won't know what it is. It would say it's not a cat. We're seeing that happening today in real life, where many AI tools don't work well for Black people and don't work well for women, because they are mostly not considered when these tools are getting built. And that can get very dangerous in the future when you think of applications like a self-driving car.
Just wow. I think most people, we hear AI and we have a very high level view of what AI is and does and can be. And this narrative about robots taking over the world, First of all, what do you think about that? Is that a real possibility? Should we be concerned about that?
Narrative of robots taking over the world? No, it's not something we should worry about right now. I don't know if it's possible. If it were possible, that would be a very long time from now, in the 2050s or so. But as of today, there is so much AI around us that it's impossible for it to not be there. So I don't know if I think we've passed the stage of whether we should accept it or not. I mean, if you use a smartphone, you're using AI, right? So that's what AI is today. AI is simply looking at a lot of examples at the past, at the history, and then making a decision based on that. That's what AI does. And so when you search Google today for an answer, it's going to look through billions of options and give you the answer in a split second. That's AI. So we're already using it today. It's creating access to things that we never had before. So now you can ask a question and get a response in a few seconds. Hasn't that improved your life? It probably has. And so in a similar way, there are other ways to apply AI as well, like we've described earlier on, where you can now build new health care tools that before you needed a doctor to be there. But then we know in Africa that it's, what's the other numbers now? Is it one doctor to 4,000 people? It's a lot. I'm getting the numbers wrong, but we have way fewer doctors than we need. And we will never be able to train enough doctors. And so technologies like AI can really help. Technologies like AI can really help. And that's what we should be thinking about.
I mean, absolutely. I'm AI's biggest fan. So, but there is this idea that computers can become more intelligent than humans. Or are they already? Are they already more intelligent than us? Because how much data do we process before we make decisions? Can we process 1 billion? You know what I mean? I can't process 1 billion questions.
Yeah, we can't. It's interesting. There are different types of activities, and those that humans are still incredibly superior, and then those that AI are not. AI is quite dumb, really. For example, as a human, you probably need to see an example 3 to 5 times, and then you know how to do that activity, right? But as of today, the AI needs to see it thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times before it gets it. So that's pretty dumb, right? Right. So that's one way. Now, I'm not saying it won't get better. We are all trying to make it, get smarter and faster, especially in times like coronavirus, because it's with AI that would get closer to the vaccine faster, pretty quickly. And so it continues to improve. But as it improves, we should continue to talk about the potential downsides and negatives, and so that we, include those concerns as we design and design it to not fall into those kind of problems.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to definitely start wrapping up. I want you to share anything else about Alliance for AI that you think people should know. What are you guys working on in the short term? Do you have an ask of the world?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So as we said before, we are trying to find some of the sharpest African innovators working on very interesting things. When we do our best to try to empower them, to activate them, to connect them to opportunities. And then finally, we try to take their stories to the highest levels on the globe, because we have that access, right? Most of us on the team work for some of the largest technology companies in the world. I mean, I work for NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the #1 AI platform on the planet. Other folks work for Google or come from Harvard. So we have access to the table per se as individuals. And so we try to extend that access to these innovators that we find. And the next such event is the Global AI for Good Summit that is put up by the UN and the ITU. That's just been postponed to September. But when that time comes, we will, we've secured the opportunity to take up to 10 African innovators to that event and showcase the best of African solutions. So in an attempt to start to upgrade the global perception of African solutions, I'm very excited about that event. I look forward to September. I think we'll demonstrate and show very exciting work, and also provide opportunities for these innovators to meet their counterparts in other parts of the world. I think it would be a very, very strong, powerful Wakanda moment, as you said, use that word earlier on. I'm looking forward to that. And so I ask folks to, have a look at our website, check that activity out, see if you want to join the trip and come to Geneva while we're there displaying what Africans can do. And well, we always need grants. We need grants to transport some of these researchers who come from parts of the world you've never been to, like Malawi, Botswana, and Sierra Leone. We have innovators from those parts of the world who want to come on the trip as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Very exciting. Okay. So I'm going to do my few get to know you questions, and then, and then we'll wrap it up. How does that sound?
Okay.
Anything else that you wanted to say on this topic before we shift?
No.
Okay. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to touch on this religious question because I was really enjoying what we said before we started recording. What is you said that you have a calling, and you're answering that calling, but you don't necessarily
believe in God,
but you do believe in God. So because I want to know about some of the secrets to your success, and where does it all fit in? What do you believe in on the spiritual?
That's a very interesting one. I typically don't know how to answer that question. I grew up Catholic. And somewhere down the line, I started to think a lot less about particular religions and ways of serving God, and just believing that there was an entity somewhere that all humans from all parts of the world at some point in their life try to find. And there are many ways to get to that entity. And that's what I believed for a while. So I did stop actively practicing all the Christian ways as I started to experience folks from other parts of the world, from India, practicing their Hinduism, the Muslims. And I found that these are all great people. Mm-hmm. And there was no way I would say that they were wrong in what they were doing. I felt like we were all serving one being that exists, and there are different ways to get to him, and I have my ways of getting to him.
Wow. Okay. So does that belief factor into your success? You said that things work out for you, and I want to know what you think maybe some of your secrets are. Clearly, I mean, you have great values in terms of being hardworking, and you kind of have an advantage in terms of your brain, right? But what are the practices, what are the secrets that work for you and that you would share with others to implement in their lives?
Yeah, with that piece, I think I just have some principle. Well, it's interesting. Well, I do have some key principles I live by. Maybe there's two key ones. It's really around leaving things better than they were when I met them. That's been a key one for me for a long time, where it's just constantly trying to improve things and helping them be better. Right. And then the second one is I believe in the golden rule of doing unto others as you would like it to be done to you. Mm-hmm. I think those have really kept me on track all through this time. And in terms of, I trust me, I went through the phase of thinking I was an atheist and didn't believe in God and all of that. But then as I continued down my path of what I've called my calling and my life's work, things have just fallen into place. Like wild things just happen, which make me think, okay, perhaps there's a being somewhere, and even though I'm not going to church and praying every day, it supports what I'm doing and it's keeping me here and continues to nourish and cheer me on. So perhaps I'm doing things at once.
Wow.
It sounds crazy to say.
No.
But
It doesn't sound crazy at all.
I've gotten out of things like ridiculous car accidents with no scratch. That it's like, okay, perhaps my time is not over yet.
Wow. Okay. I have two other questions, and then we can close it out from there. Okay, so you were born in Nigeria. Do you speak any Nigerian languages?
I wish I spoke more Nigerian languages. But so far, the closest is Hausa. It's my mom's language, and I absolutely love it.
So you speak Hausa fluently or well?
Decently. I can hear most of it, and I can say some words. It's a beautiful language spoken by people from mostly the northern part of Nigeria.
Yeah, and the Hausa belt across.
Okay,
yeah, that's a good skill to have. And what is your favorite? You told me your favorite film of all time, or what you're watching right now on Netflix or TV. What kind of content do you like?
What I'm watching right now was suggested to me by you. You might not have known that. Yes, I read an article you put up about top 5 shows on Netflix to watch. So I'm going down the list. Thank you for putting that up. Right now I'm watching They've Gotta Have Us, which is a history of Black content in America and where that's come from the beginning of the 1900s to now, where you've got Black Panther and all the other new movies that are proving that Black content can sell billions of dollars.
Wow. Yeah, I loved that documentary.
Yes. And then the other one is Explained. I think I enjoy watching shows that explain how things are.
Wow. Okay. And my last question is, what does Black liberation mean to you?
Black liberation. It's connected to my earlier point, where it's a place where, as Black people, we're able to be free to just be ourselves, both as a collective, but even as individuals. I feel today we're not afforded the opportunity to be individuals. People see every Black person and judge the entire race based on what that one person does. And that just puts a lot of pressure and makes it difficult to just be. And so liberation might be that day when we're able to just be people and be part of humanity as against what it is now.
Wow. I can't think of a better note to end on. That was beautifully said. Thank you. Well, Alex, I know we will be talking lots more in life. But yes, I want to just thank you for this lovely, edifying time, and just you sharing. I've learned so much and I really appreciate you. And based on this conversation, I've decided to rename the podcast to Black Genius. might give it a little bit more clarity in terms of what we want to talk about and who we want to talk to. Okay, but this has been amazing, and I'm sure we'll end up doing another one soon.
Amen. Thank you very much for the opportunity.